Hi friends, welcome to episode number 6 of our procurement and sourcing series. In this episode, we will continue to explore about the additional capabilities in request for quotation and Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. With no further delay, let's quickly jump into today's topic.
So let's quickly get into this today's topic. I'll just quickly skip the slides which we already discussed in our previous episode number 5. So make sure that you check the part 1 of RFQ before coming to the part 2 of RFQ. So we already discussed about creating the request for quote using the purchase requisition, and also how to create a purchase requisition and convert it into a purchase order, and creating a purchase agreement from the request for quote. Also the process remains the same, only the end output will be creating a purchase agreement once the request for quote is accepted. So you can see the purchase type can be 3. So in this episode we'll also quickly create a purchase agreement from the request for quote. But the whole idea is, let me also quickly share the flow chart which I got from the learn page, where you can see the request for quote can be created from the purchase requisitions or from the planned purchase orders also. So how to create a request for quote from the planned purchase order? Let's quickly get into Dynamics 365 screen. And if you go to procurement and sourcing, you can also go to master planning if you want to open the planned purchase orders. I'm navigating to procurement and sourcing module under purchase orders. That's section called planned purchase orders. Just click on planned purchase orders, and inside the planned purchase orders, just select any of the planned purchase orders which is already available in the system. And on the top in the action pane, you can see there is option to change to request for quotation. So this option will help you to change the planned purchase order to a request for quote, and then using the request for quote, you can float the quotation to multiple vendors, get their quote, and once again convert it back to a firm purchase order. So once you click on this request for quote, you can also see change selected plan purchase order to a request for quote. Request for quotation is not set up to be included in master planning. So whenever the master planning runs, this setup is not included to convert it into a request for quote. Now you can also assign a batch job with specific conditions so that the specific planned purchase orders can be converted into a request for quote. So now we are just manually converting this into a request for quote. So just simply click on OK. So this will convert the planned purchase order 3885 into the request for quote ID 00073. So let me select this. Now what we have to do is we have to go to the request for quote page, and you can see, yep, 773. This is the request for quote ID which got generated from the planned purchase order for the item T0005. So this is how you generate a request for quote for the planned purchase orders, and the process remains the same. Then you select the vendors, and then get the appropriate replies from the vendors, and then compare the bids, and then award the appropriate vendor with whom you want to do the business, right? And then as we progress in this flow chart, you can also see we also saw how we need to create, select, amend the request for quote. But in this video we will be looking at how to create a scoring criteria, scoring method, and assign it to a solicitation type, and based on which you will be able to compare the RFQ replies based on the scoring by providing appropriate scorings, so that the purchasing manager can take a conscious decision on which particular vendor to go ahead as far as accepting or rejecting the bids are concerned. So that's what we will be quickly saying in this episode. So let me go back to our slide. So first of all, we need to understand what is the scoring method. The scoring method is a set of criteria that can be used to compare bids that are sent in reply to a RFQ. So whenever you get replies from the vendors, you can assign certain criteria based on which you want to score those replies from the vendors. It can be like lead time, pricing, delivery terms, payment terms, credit terms, or so you can provide appropriate criteria and provide the scoring to those criteria so that you can take a conscious call in terms of which particular bid to accept and reject. The scoring method can be associated with the solicitation type as the default scoring method for RFQ. So you can create a scoring method and assign it to a solicitation type, which is whenever you assign the solicitation type, the appropriate scoring method will be inherited from the master. When there are multiple scoring criteria on an RFQ, the scores that have been entered or added to each other. So it's not necessary you need to have only one scoring criteria. You can have multiple scoring criterias, but end of the day, all the scores within the range which you have given will be added, and the sum is made available to allow the bids to be compared. So if we will quickly see this also in the D365 screen, where if we go to compare replies, we will be able to view the total score for the scoring criteria whichever we have defined. You can choose to add or delete criteria on this page. You can also delete the criteria if you feel that is irrelevant, and then it is also possible to add new criteria by copying them from other scoring methods. So it's not necessarily you need to use the same criteria, but you can also copy other criteria from the scoring methods master, and appropriately you can use it for your references. So, and also we will discuss about bid type, but not right now. Let's quickly jump back to D365 screen. So just all you have to do is, first of all, to create a scoring method, go to procurement and sourcing, navigate to setup, and under setup, if you go to request for quotation, there is an option called scoring method, right? So now let's go to scoring method. So there are some default data which is available. Let me click on new. Let me name this as RFQ test. RFQ test. So this is the scoring method which we will be using, test scoring. So you can provide an appropriate description. Then now the new will be disabled, but if you click on save, then the new option will be enabled. So here you can provide the appropriate scoring criterias. It can be your team, how if you want to score the team of the vendor with whom you are getting engaged, or you can talk about credit terms. You can I am just want to keep the range as 0 to 10, or you can also talk about delivery mode. What is the mode of delivery which they use? Is it a good option for me? I just want to use, let's say you can add like this multiple scoring criterias, but for the purpose of this video, I'll just limit myself to the 3 scoring criterias based on which I just want to evaluate the vendor bids and appropriately reward the quote to the respective vendors. So let me save this RFQ test. Let me go back, and you need to assign the scoring method to the solicitation type. So let me, in the solicitation type, just click on new. I'll just select create a solicitation type as RFQ. Yeah, let's use the same name, RFQ test. Then description, you can provide a appropriate description which is easy for you to identify. And then in the scoring method drop down, you need to select the scoring method which we just created, RFQ test. So whenever any RFQ which is created with the solicitation type RFQ test, the scoring method, the RFQ test will be obviously inherited from this master. And you can also define whether the bid type need to be opened or sealed. So what is the difference between the bid type being opened or sealed? Let's go back to our presentation. If it is open, then the users will be able to view the bids irrespective of whether the purchasing managers have completed the RFQ process. But if it is sealed, the main difference is that the bid data, whatever the request for quote data with respect to price, discounts, the users and the attachments also will be kept encrypted until the bid is unsealed. So only when it is unsealed, when the bidding process is completed, only after that you will be able to view the pricing details and the discounts offered by the vendors, whatever may be the number of requests for quotes you have floated. So based on your business specific strategies, business requirements, you can decide whether you want to go for a sealed bid or if you want to go for a open bid. So in either cases, you need to assign whether you want to go for a bid type which is open or sealed. So I'm just going to keep the scenario simple, because bid type sealed actually requires a detailed video, but I'm not going to cover it in this particular video. So I'll just keep this bid type as open, and I'll also enable allow alternate on response lines. I'll quickly come back to this particular functionality, but as of now, I'll just enable this. We'll also discuss about this, what this feature is all about, very shortly in this video. So please do make sure that you watch this video until the end. So let me save this. Let me go back, and of course if you want any bidding guidance items need to be added, then you can add it. And I'm sure this is just a separate master. If you go to details, you can add it as a separate master. You can add a line item, and you can add the description so that it helps as a guidance for the users in terms of bidding. And you can make it as required or not required also. But as of now, this is not an important functionality. We need to focus on the scoring method. That's the whole idea of this particular video. So let me go back and create a all request under all requests for quotation. Let me create a new request for quotation, and then here I'm going to select the type, purchase type, as purchase agreements. So we will try to create a purchase agreement at the end of this RFQ. Let me select a warehouse, and then the moment we select the purchase agreement, you can see the expiration date is becomes a mandatory. So let me keep the expiration date as 31st of October, and then let's say the agreement as blanket purchase agreement. So these two are mandatory in order to create a purchase agreement. So that's the reason while creating the RFQ, you need to make sure that these two entries are updated in the system. So let me click on OK. So this will create a RFQ. So let me add an item number here. Let me add the Surface Pro item 1000, and then I need a quantity of 3, and the expected unit price is maybe 120, and then $120. And then okay, actually I just missed capturing the solicitation type, so let me remove this. Sorry for the inconvenience. So let me try to do it again. Let me select the purchase agreement, and I need to select the solicitation type which we created right now. So that is RFQ test. And then because I saw the allow alternate response lines was disabled, that's how I figured it out. I have not selected the solicitation type, because in the solicitation type which we created, we actually enabled allow alternate on response lines. So let me go back, let me again select the expiration date, and then let me select the item classification, purchase agreement classification, and then let me click on OK. So now when I click on OK, you can see the allow alternate on response lines is enabled. So because it has inherited the data which we have configured in the master. You can also see the solicitation type in the header with the bid type as open, and you can also see the allow alternate on response lines is enabled to yes. So let me go back to lines, and let me select any item number. Let me quickly select it. So I'm going a bit fast because I'm not going to focus on what is the overall process for RFQ. We already discussed about it. Let me change the quantity, then give a unit price, maybe $120. Let me save this. Let me update. Let me try to capture 2 vendor accounts over here, so that we will be able to score the 2 vendors based on the criteria whatever we have selected. And then for those 2 vendors, we will be able to do the evaluation. Let me select one more vendor. Let me save this. Now let me quickly send it and update the replies. So this will process the request for quote. So now what we are going to do is, for both the vendors, we are going to edit the replies. So as a purchaser, I already got the information from both the vendors accounts. So let me go to the respective vendor accounts. Let me click on edit and edit RFQ reply. So here let me first capture the price. Let's say I'm willing to offer at a price of 115. I'm also willing to give a discount amount per unit as $2. So this should be fine. So let me go back, and I just want to show you that even though we have enabled allow alternate on response lines, you can see here add alternate option is disabled. I'll quickly tell you why, what is the reason behind it. So we will not be able to, the vendor will not be able to add the alternate lines which the user can supply. Maybe the vendor might have the Surface Pro 256 GB laptop, but currently the add alternate line is disabled. So even though the allow alternate on response lines is enabled. Okay, let me quickly submit this, and then I will just submit the other bid also, which we have received from the vendor account 1003. So let me go to that vendor. Let me click on edit or reply. So I'm just editing this, so you can see the purchaser is updating it. So let me go back, and then let me keep the unit price as 125. Then I'll just keep the lead time as maybe 20. And I'm not offering, this vendor is not offering any discount. Let me submit this. So once we got the replies from the vendors, then as a purchasing manager, I can go and check the various various options which are offered by the vendor, like in terms of price, in terms of discount, and based on which I should be able to evaluate the vendor, right? So that's what we were discussing over here in the presentation, where the scoring criteria that can be used to compare the bids. So that's what we will going to quickly see here now. Let me go back to D365 screen. So in the respective request for code which we created right now, 74, let me, if we go to the header section, there is a action, there is a force tab called bid scoring. So here you can see the criteria which we created in the scoring method RFQ test actually inherited over here. Let's say whether after having a discussion, initial discussion with the team, I feel the score which I can give based on their collaboration or teamwork, I can rate them as 9. And you may also wonder, what if I rate a value greater than 10? So system will throw a message saying that the value for this score must be between 0 to 10, right? So we cannot provide a value higher than 10. So declared terms is also good, and I also feel the delivery mode which they suggested is also fine for me. So you can also see, as we add the number and we click on save, you can see the total score is calculated by summing up all the individual criteria scores. So let me go to the other vendor. I feel for this team, the collaboration not pretty good. The communications are not proper. So I'm just keeping the score as 3. Credit terms is good, but delivery mode, still I'm not convinced with the delivery mode, which the choice of delivery mode which I have. So let me save this. So now let me go back. So the overall idea for using this is, other apart from using the regular price or regular quantity based discount based decisions, user will be able to evaluate based on certain criteria. So that's a overall idea of using scoring methods. So now if we go to compare replies, you can see that apart from, like I said, other than comparing it with unit price, line discount, total discounts, lead time, you can also compare the replies based on the total score. So now you can see the vendor 1001 account has a better total score compared to the other vendor 1003. So I definitely want to go ahead with the vendor number 1. So by this process, the purchasing managers will, or the sourcing managers will be able to take a conscious call in terms of deciding and accepting the request for quote. So let's say this is the vendor with whom I just want to proceed. Let me quickly go and accept it. So this will post an acceptance journal and create a purchase agreement. So the whole idea for showcasing this particular functionality is to also show you how the purchase agreement gets created from the request for quote. So we got a notification on the top. Let's quickly check that. So I'm also posting a rejection journal for the other vendor. So if you can see here, the automatic purchase creation vendor account. Okay, so the purchase agreement 004, this has been created. So but the point to note here is, if I go to purchase agreement, I've copied it. Let me go to purchase agreement, click on purchase agreements. So so this is the purchase agreement for which got created. Most importantly, you need to note that the status is on hold. So we are not discussing about what is the functionality of purchase agreement, what is the business process flow. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, because I will quickly cover about purchase agreement in this particular series of procurement and sourcing. So we will discuss in detail about the same later. So that's how we have created a purchase agreement from the RFQ. Let me go back to all requests for quotations, and let me go back to the slide. So the whole idea is, you create a scoring method, assign it to a solicitation type, and when that particular solicitation type is assigned to your RFQ, you will be able to evaluate the vendors based on the certain scoring criterias. And for each and every criteria, you can have a range, and within the range, you can provide the appropriate scores and evaluate the vendor by comparing the different scores which the vendors have got, by doing a sum of all the individual scores provided by the sourcing manager or the procurement managers. So let's get into the next part of the video, like how do we add alternate lines in the request for quote. So you might be wondering that in some cases the vendor might have option which is much better, or maybe an alternate item number which they want to offer it to us, right? Which may not be part of our item master altogether. So in those cases, you can make use of basically for the non-catalog items. So this is functionality is not specific to the catalog items, only for the non-catalog items. So let me quickly create a request for quote. Click on new, and then let me select the same solicitation type, because I also want to show you how to change the scoring method. So RFQ test is the solicitation type. Let me select it, then select a arrows, and let me click on OK. So now the most important point here is, if you want to use the functionality allow alternate lines on response, then you need to make sure the line type is category and not item. So only if it is category, then you will be able to make use of allowing the vendors to give alternate responses for the lines for which you requested. As purchasing agent, you might want to know about alternate items or services in case there are better alternatives to your original request. That there may be chances for whatever the requested item, there can be better alternatives with the vendor, better versions or additional models which are available with the vendor. So vendor can add those lines, because currently in the previous request for quote which we created, we are not allowing the vendor to add any lines, but in this case we will be allowing the vendor to add the lines. So if the purchase type is purchase requisition, in this case our purchase type is purchase order, and if you click on new, you can see, so the system is asking us to enter the category. That's fine, but the idea is, if you can see in the previous page where we showed that if the purchase type is purchase requisition, then we need to make sure that alternate lines are present. You can accept either the original bid line or the alternate line, but not both. Which means you can, if it is a PR, then you can accept either the original line or the alternate line, but not both. But in case of purchase order, you will be able to accept both the lines if you want. We will also quickly see that, because that's the reason I have just created a purchase order instead of a purchase requisition type. So here you can see the purchase type is purchase order. If you want, you can also change it over here right now, but purchase requisition, you cannot select purchase requisition, because only you can select only purchase order or purchase agreement. For purchase requisition, that's a different process. We already discussed about that. So let me go back to the lines. Let me select any product category, the procurement category. Let's say it is cleaning. Then let me click on OK, and let me give a product name for understanding cleaning and maintenance, and then let me select a quantity, and then what unit price may be $80, and then let me quickly save this. So I think this is it. Let me go to header, and then here let me select the vendor account. So in this case I'm going to select only one vendor account, but I will just allow him to add the alternate line on behalf of the vendor. So let me add the vendor account. Let me save this. So once if it is saved, let me click on send. This will send the RFQ to the vendors. So once the request for quote is sent, then we should be able to edit the RFQ replies under manage replies. So let me quickly go to manage replies. I'm kind of going fast because because all these processes we already discussed in detail. So that's the reason I'm not checking tap on this. So if I go to RFQ replies, if I scroll down, you can see now the add alternate option is enabled. Before, in the previous request for quote, when we, even though we had allow alternate on response lines is enabled, we never saw that add alternate option is enabled over here. But now this is enabled, which will allow the vendors. Right now I am just updating on behalf of the vendor. So right now if we are using vendor collaboration portal, that the vendor will be able to add the alternate line. So let's say I have an alternate service of cleaning which is getting offered at maybe $75, and I may be interested in providing cleaning and service. If you have any item number, you can provide it over here. If the vendor is having any specific item numbers, let me change this description. Let me provide the item number as like CS001 maybe, and then I'm also willing to provide a discount of 2% for this. So actually what happened is, now we have given an alternate option compared to whatever the customer has requested. Now the vendor is providing an alternate option using this functionality of allow alternate on response lines. So now let me submit this. So then it's the same process which happens. You can go ahead and accept the particular request for quote and then convert it into a purchase order or a purchase agreement. The process remains the same. But one more thing which I just want to show you is, If I go back to the scoring method, let's say manage replies. So if you look at the scoring method, you can see the criteria is team, credit terms, and delivery mode. Still, because we have captured the RFQ test as a solicitation type, right? But in case if I want to change the scoring method, then all you have to do is under quotation, go to scoring criteria, and then so these are the current scoring criteria which are available in the system. And then let me go to copy criteria. Then I just don't want to have this particular criteria, and I want to use the RFP service scoring method. And if you click on replace existing criteria, then all these criterias will be replaced with the criterias with the scoring methods available in RFP services. I click on OK. So now you can see these are the criterias with which I just want to evaluate. Let me save this. Now let me go back, and now if I go to manage replies, under the RF, under the header, because this is the scoring criteria which is relevant for this particular case, right? So we cannot now you can see this is the scoring criteria which I really want to use. So you can assign appropriate scoring methods based on the line type, whether it is item or category, and then based on which you can define the scoring criteria. And then you can rate the scores based on the range. And then see, right now even I don't even know what is the range for key, personal, or something. Like, I just simply provide a score. The system can throw a message saying score must be between 0 to 20. So based on which you can provide the appropriate scores, evaluate the vendors and their replies, and then you can take a conscious call rather than going purely deciding makes based on the price, quantity, or discounts. There are some soft aspects based on which you can evaluate and take an appropriate action for the same, right? So let me go back to the presentation. So this is the whole idea of having alternate lines. And also you can see the alternate lines option whenever, even if I go to compare replies. Now let me refresh this page. The alternate, I just want to show you that you can see the alternate option is enabled. And also on the top it clearly says the total amount does not include alternate lines, which is very very important. Even that I have also written it in the presentation. When you review total cost in the bid, be aware that the alternate lines are not included in the total. So make sure that you always make sure that the total cost does not consider the alternate lines, which is very important. So this is the whole functionality of using scoring method and add alternate lines. We also saw about how to convert a RFQ into a purchase agreement, and we also defined a solicitation type. So also we discussed about how to use the scoring method, copy the existing criteria from the master. And in the next episode, we will discuss about creating questionnaires, how to have those interactions with the vendors, how to create the questionnaires back and forth, have those discussions from the vendor and also from the customer using the RFQ. But not right now. But in the next episode, we will be discussing about this.
Thanks for watching this video. In the next episode, episode number 7, we will continue to explore about the additional capabilities which are available in Dynamics 365 FM2, recording, asking and answering questions related to RFQ. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel D365 Talks to get notified whenever I post videos related to the same. Until then, Sri Ram Sivashankaran signing off.